Hey, what's up, people? Uh, Bitcoin. Let's talk about it on a chart here. Uh, we had a really good call last night on YouTube. Covered a lot of good charts, but the power went out and we lost the video, so kind of sucked. But I wanted to show you a couple charts that I went over last night that I think is pretty interesting, and I hope you can find them interesting too. If so, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Love to have you for discussions. It's awesome. Let me share my screen here and let's get right into the charts. All right. All right. First of all, one of the things that I'm seeing, and I'm sure a lot of other people are seeing out there, is just more talk of the halving. This chart, there's been different variations of this chart coming out, and I really like the way this one looks. Um, they mark off the halvings. The one back in 2012, the one here in 2016, and then I think it's May 23rd in 2020 will be the next one. And this one really lays out the nice bull market, bear market, expansion, accumulation, expansion, and then reaccumulation. I like the way this is all set up in these nice little cycles. Uh, but I want to dive in and look at the internals of what's going on behind the scenes when this is going on. And uh, so I dug up, or I built up this chart here. Uh, uh, the vertical lines on this chart. This is a weekly chart for Bitcoin. It's a Bitstamp, but these lines here are the halvings. I have it marked as May 18th, but this is a weekly chart, so I think it's supposed to happen on the 23rd. So looking at this weekly chart for Bitcoin, I wanted to mark the internals of what was going on, in the market, when it comes to measuring the behavior, measuring the momentum, the trend, those kind of things. First of all, back here in 14, 15, I got this blue trend line here working to the downside. So from this point, we went from a bearish market to, kind of sideways to lower, but definitely a bearish trend based on this trend line here. And then this is the event right here, right at this black line here, which is this line right here is golden. This is the 55 exponential moving average for the weekly. This is my support and resistance guide. I really like it, and I think you get a lot of information off of it. And I'm going to kind of point out a few things here. Uh, got the blue trend line here, so the sellers are kind of owning that line, and then all of a sudden the buyers kind of push through and break the trend line, and they also break the 55 exponential moving average right at this point. So what was happening here? If you look down at the ADX, which is the black line here, what this measures is the strength of the trend. And right now, the trend was turning bullish here because the green positive directional index was also increasing. So as the momentum for trend was increasing for the bulls at the time this broke, that's a really strong signal that you got a lot of buying interest coming into the market. Now, diving down deeper to get another validation of what's going on, I look at the RSI. As this market was moving through a bearish trend, the RSI was kind of in a what I would call a bearish zone. It went up and tested the trend line a couple times as it tested the resistance here on the indicator itself. But it was when it broke this 55 exponential moving average to the upside here and then came back and retested it at this point where it busted above this line and held it right here. And at this point, you move into the bullish zone. And as you can see, the market went up and then we kind of went parabolic into 2017. At the same time, the 55 exponential moving average was your support guide all along. Now it tested it a couple times, but every time it would come down and test, the RSI would also test to tell you if it was going to remain in a bullish zone or not. And it definitely stayed within the bullish zone here. Uh, when you look back here a little bit, I got a couple blue arrows here because somebody asked me the other day, what about this one where it wicked down underneath the 55 here? Well, I said, well, let's dig in and let's see what's happening in the internals here. The ADX was actually decreasing. The directional index lines were kind of tying up. So there wasn't really any momentum being built for that move. So it just kind of wicked up and then just kind of stayed sideways. As you can see, the ADX is really low momentum, didn't know what direction to take until this point right here. the red negative directional index kicks up, and then the ADX starts kicking up at the same time, then you're going starting to get some momentum, and then it breaks the 55 exponential to the downside, and we got that bearishness that comes into the market, and then finally we broke the bearishness at this point, where we were in this bearish zone, and then went to the bull run. I like it. And of course I put a little Fibonacci on there from the high and low. It broke out, hit the 61.8% level here. So you had that as resistance, and then the 55 exponential as support. Finally broke it, and then it did a little flip here to where it became support here, and then it broke to new highs. So I like the way this is all set up. Now let's move into where we are today. Same kind of thing. We were following this 55 exponential moving average, kind of wrapped around it for a long time here. But when you dig down into the internals, the ADX is really low, so there's really not a lot of momentum for trend. And then also the directional index lines are all kind of tangled up, not really giving a sense of direction. So what do? We went sideways all along this exponential moving average for a long ass time. So, but what happened at this point was we were in this bull area on the RSI, but then it broke down at this point right here. So you got a little transition from bull to bear, and then we got into this bearish market. It eventually broke down pretty good right at this point, where we had this little last area of capitulation down to the 3100 or so. That's where the ADX kicked up here, and we got a lot of momentum for the bears. Well, what happened here recently is we broke the trend line to the upside, and at the same time we broke the 55 exponential moving average to the upside. And what was happening? Exactly what I want to see. The ADX is increasing, giving us some internal momentum. At the same time, the bulls are taking control of trend. And at the same time here, right at the point where this broke, it broke the moving average here, and then it also broke the range of the bearish zone and moved us into a bullish zone on the RSI. So going forward, and then of course I put a Fibonacci on here. The 61.8% level is at 13.5, but the break of this trend line to the upside really measures us to get possibly new highs as we go forward, now that we're in this bullish market. So all of this together looks really good to me. I like the way the patterns are as we're approaching the halving here in May of 2020. We could work up here. We can get it all in this area of reaccumulation and then break to the upside. It's going to be tough on timing, but I'm going to stay long. And this 55 exponential moving average is going to be a really key guide for me as I move forward. So as that gets retested, I'll be looking at the internals to see if the momentum of the trend in the market is changing, or are we breaking out from a bull zone back into a bear zone on the RSI? If these all match up and they validate each other, that's when I get comfortable and go in either long or short. And right now I'm long with this break to the upside. Nice momentum, nice indication. I like it. Let's move forward. So when you look at it that way, if you pull up, and let me pull up another chart real quick. Let's see here. Oh, if I can hit the right button, we might be able to get this to work. I just wanted to show a daily chart real quick on BTC. I can't even remember what I named it, but no, that's not the right one. Actually, I put this chart out on Twitter. This is one I've been kind of working with. Just kind of showing the psychology of the market. I said fibs rock because we went right down there and tested the 61.8% level and bounced off of this huge red candle we had last night. So I little shout out to fibs rock right on Fibonacci Friday as we move into the weekend. So hopefully you all have a good weekend there. But let me get to the chart I wanted to show. Let's see this one here. This is the daily. I've been following this, and there's a lot of Fibonacci on this. If you, I got it set to 2 hours. Let me put it on a daily here. If you want, go back and watch the video I have on this chart. I did it a few days ago. It really measures out all the Fibonacci lines I have on here. It's pretty fascinating on how all this kind of ties in together. I was messing with this chart last night, talking about Tone Vase's 30%. I wanted to see where the 30% drop would be. It's got a little bit further to go to get there. I think we only dropped about 20% on that wick to the downside. So that's looking pretty good there. Let me get this marked out there. We got the 61.8% level there. Let me fix this up a little bit. One thing I like on this chart on the daily is this blue dotted line going out into the future. I think this is going to be a key level to watch, because right here is where we broke to the downside, had that move to 3100, then we started the bull move, and then we broke above it right at this point. And now I think with with what we just looked like on the weekly, the daily, I like the move to the upside here. The target on this trend line is pretty high, up around 17,000. So I like this whole range up here. Now the test of this bullish trend line here that goes out into the future. This one's going to be a key test for me, especially this intersection here of around 5,600. If it gets underneath this level, it could go down pretty far, and I'd be a little nervous if it broke the intersection of that, because we got there. That's a lot of support in here. We should find some buying interest if it dips down into here. So I bought on this dip right here. I will buy again if it dips down into this area. But if it starts to break underneath this level, I'm gonna have to unload some of those longs a little bit. So even though the RSI is dropping, we still are in that bullish zone even on the daily, just like we talked about. So all in all, I'm still long this market. I'm still buying on dips. I still think we're heading up higher. I would not be surprised if we hit 8,500 by the end of this weekend, maybe on Sunday. If we get the momentum to kick back in. This is just a nice little correction, but I think the bulls are still in control. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, let me know. Comment, like the channel, ring the bell. We're doing this to give all the information you can, so people can make informed decisions. So no news, just TA for me. Paul, I think, set out some news this morning, so you can watch his video. And all in all, it's happy Fibonacci Friday. Have a good weekend. Peace out.